Greetings sailors and welcome to the first video of 2018. For this one I have chosen a Fushun game, which is of course from the Pan-Asian destroyer line, that being the latest line of ships to be added to the game. So it seemed appropriate to pick something that was relatively new. Now, I haven't had any replays of the lower tier ships in the line because I took advantage of the fact that Wargaming offered, I think it was like 15 missions where you basically got double XP for your wins, and if you stack those with dailies, well, it lets you skip through to in my case, tier 6 relatively easily. I rode that particular set of missions all the way to tier 6, and so didn't really have to play the lower tiers that much. But of the lower tiers, the only one I didn't particularly like was the tier 5. And in part that's because, although the lower tiers are like tiers 2 and 3, they actually have quite long torp ranges for low tier ships, but they also have very slow torpedoes. Once you get to tier 5, you can't stealth torp at all unless it's from smoke, but you do at least still have numerous smoke charges, because one of the parts of the Pan-Asian destroyer flavour is that not only do they have the deep water torpedoes, but they also get quite a lot of smoke charges, and it's very long-lasting smoke in terms of the laying time. You get about 20 odd seconds of actual smoke laying time, so you can have very big clouds even if it doesn't then stick around for that long. And then you don't have to wait too long for your cooldown, so you can almost immediately smoke again, especially if you're using Jack of all trades. Now, I do have to apologise here for shift press to enter the binocular view being right in the middle of the screen. Yeah, this is an exciting new replay bug that Wargaming have introduced with patch 6.15. With some replays, if you hit shift enough times, it will clear, but I tried it in this one. I've tried recording this replay multiple times. I can't get rid of it. So for some replays, you're just stuck with it, annoyingly. So you're just unfortunately going to have to get used to its presence, because there is no way for me to get rid of it. So initially in this game, and it's a tier 7 game, it's not too bad matchmaking wise, I went for the B cap. Initially I was going to go for A, and then veered off to go towards B, where I've encountered 2 of the enemy 3 destroyers. And firepower wise, I'm not too worried. This is basically a Gnevny, so it does have pretty good firepower. But I was also slightly banking on having some firepower support from my team, because most of the team, the vast majority of the team, has gone towards C. We did have 2 ships go towards A, which is one of the reasons why I didn't, because I saw that one of the Minikazes was going to go in cap, and I don't know why the Alba was there as well, but you know, even if we only hold on to A for a little while, it still gives us a bit of points accumulation. But yeah, I'm attracting a bit of attention here. It's not necessarily ideal, but I have managed to inflict some significant damage on that Matsuki, and I've maybe given the Nicholas some slight pause for thought as well. We do actually have more destroyers than the enemy team. This is one of the things that Wargaming absolutely needs to address, hopefully some point soon, because if you're on the wrong end of this equation, when you're in a domination game and the enemy team has more destroyers, it absolutely can make a huge difference. But of course, then player skill does also come into play. You might have more destroyers, but if the enemy team's destroyers are better, then of course that does make a huge difference. But just one team having an inherent advantage over the other thanks to the matchmaker is not really a good thing at all. So yeah, Wargaming needs to address that. So there's the Nicholas. He's just popped out at fairly close range, and this is not necessarily great for me, except he's firing AP. Okay, I'll take it. Yeah, my guns hit fairly hard. I think, dodge reasonably well, but if he was firing HE, I would be losing more hit points here for sure. I could not tell you why this Nicholas is firing AP. You know, there are times to fire AP in a destroyer, and in fact later on you will see me firing AP in this destroyer. But this is not one of those times when you're fighting another destroyer. Though there are some exceptions. I think the Akizuki's guns, the AP is the choice, and I'm trying to think if there's some other. I'm sure some of the German destroyer guns. I have a vague feeling like the 15 centimeter German destroyer guns you Want to fire AP, or am I completely making that up? Maybe. I have a vague feeling the Germans also sometimes you want to fire AP with destroyers against other destroyers, but I might be completely wrong there. So I nearly had that Nicholas, and then my charming teammates in the Minikaze, like the very first time they opened fire on anything was to just get that kill. And I wouldn't be so mad if they'd been helping me out all along, but no, they only opened fire just so they could steal the kill, basically. So it's one of those times when, yeah, it's a little bit annoying. Normally I don't get too mad about that sort of thing, like if I'm firing at a target, I've done most of the damage, and you know, I'm just happy that whatever it is dead. But in this case, I really had done all the work, and the only reason that person opened fire was just to try and get the kill, which they did, so never mind. And it's a bit more annoying in retrospect. You know, it wasn't so annoying when I was playing the game, but it's going to be a bit more annoying in retrospect when it means that there's a thing I'm not going to get as a result of not getting that kill, which I'm hoping that's vague enough, but maybe it's not. I don't know. Anyway. So, yet another attempt at taking the cap, but this time it's the PointyHairedJedi that is going to block me. And the PointyHairedJedi I am definitely worried about. Now, I've put one set of torps out on that side thinking they were going to go that way, but this is a sneaky PointyHairedJedi, and he's actually... He's held course that way long enough that I think he's going to come around that side of the island, and then he swings round the other way. So basically he was trying to bait my torpedo drop, and well, he kind of did, but I also didn't put out my full torpedo drop, so it's not so bad. And the torp reload on this is actually fairly quick as well, because you're never going to use these torps against other destroyers, and you only get 2 sets of 3. So they're all right, these torpedoes, but I've had more success with guns so far in the Pan-Asian destroyers than with torpedoes generally. But this game is actually going to be one of the exceptions. So he comes out broadside, and this is where the AP is very, very useful. So I was able to hit him with a very nice first salvo, but now he's got his hydro going, and I'm a little bit too close, so let's get out of here. I do at least give him a flooding on the nose, so if I can get a fire going, he's going to be screwed. And if I could get one of my teammates to shoot at him, that would also be very nice, but there's only maybe the KGV that could shoot at him at this particular juncture. So I'm keeping as much angle as possible here. The British cruiser semi-armor piercing shells are deadly if you're in a destroyer and showing any kind of broadside. And even though I'm not showing broadside, even though I am getting some bounces, he's still managing to shave off quite significant chunks of my health. So this is not a fight that I want. Fortunately, however, my smoke has just come back, so that quick cooldown on the smoke has completely saved my bacon. But of course, PointyHairedJedi has his own smoke as well. So it's going to be a bit, you know, if I can finish him off, that would be super useful right now, but I might not get to. So I actually have a fire there set by the PointyHairedJedi secondaries, which is the only way you can set a fire with most British cruisers, with the exception, of course, of the Belfast. And, well, of course, there's the Hwanghae and the Perth, if you're going to count those as well, because they are British cruisers, they just happen not to be on the British line. So torps out again, maybe I'll get lucky, and then I come out the smoke, only to discover I've been spotted. Now I immediately get unspotted, but that tells me that the Gallant is probably quite close. And I really don't want to get into another gunfight at this point, because I don't know what health the Gallant has. And this was, I think, just about the best time to run away here, because I've got the PointyHairedJedi, Queen Elizabeth, and New Mexico on one side, and then the Gallant somewhere to my south. So rather than sticking around in smoke and just, you know, having things closing from both sides, I decide to get the hell out of there and try and regroup with what's left of my team. Now, we are ahead on points still. We've actually been ahead on points for quite a lot of this, but this is such a messy game. This team was not really acting in a coherent manner at all. I mean, we have kept C, we've held C, but we've also got like the remaining team members just being completely all over the place, and that KGV is now going in alone. He's going to die. We've got 2 battleships on the 9-10 line. The destroyers, the other destroyers than myself, are over on the 2-3 line, and then we have a cruiser down on the J line. So having come over here and seeing where that low health Matsuki was last spotted, I decided to try and intercept them, because otherwise they might... Like, my thought was they might be going for our Bayern, that they might try and intercept the Bayern. And as it turns out, I actually spot them right here. And they are as low health as I remember. In fact, lower health than I remember. So one shot should do it. And there we go. However, I have just kind of drifted out into the view of that Fiji again. And not only the Fiji, but also the Queen Elizabeth as well. So, yeah, one hasty dab of the T key later. Well, I've taken a little bit more damage, but I am still alive. So there's the Matsuki torpedoes, but I don't really have to worry too much about them. And then I'm spotted again, and there's that Gallant who is considerably healthier than I am. And the thing is, when you're reversing in a lot of destroyers, it usually is at a speed that's faster than you can remain unspotted in the smoke with. So now I have to go forwards again because, yeah, there we go. Surprise, surprise, the Gallant has put torps out. So it's all getting a little bit frenetic. So the Queen Elizabeth is also awfully close. I do not want to come out of the smoke, and you can tell I'm feeling a bit rattled because that's a very sloppy torpedo drop right there. That is not a well-aimed torpedo drop. So once again into reverse. I don't want to be sat here stationary when my smoke runs out, but we still have that Gallant to deal with behind. And of the other enemy ships, well, the New Mexico is way down on the iron line. With the Fiji, we know is low health at this point, mainly thanks to my efforts. You know, we couldn't quite finish off the Fiji collectively, but I at least brought them down to a point where they are now a little bit less dangerous. But it's not like I've got a lot of health myself, so I'm kind of relying on this Bayern and to some extent the New Mexico, who's finally come round from the 10 line. So there's the Gallant, who is starting to smoke up just as my smoke is going, which is a good thing, because I don't want to get into a straight-up gunfight with this guy, but I did get a couple of free shots, essentially. Now he's in the smoke, he can't see me, so that's fine. However, then the Queen Elizabeth appears, and so, once again, that ability to quickly deploy my smoke after it's just expired saves my bacon. It is such a useful skill for these destroyers. I think almost this is the deep water torps are just like part of the whatever, okay, but that ability to smoke so quickly after your smoke expires, that is for me almost the true flavour of the Pan-Asian destroyers. So again, this looks like a not great drop. It looks like one or two of them will hit because the Queen Elizabeth ran themselves aground, has backed off the island, and is, you know, at least now manoeuvring at low speed, so I should get some hits out of that. But clearly I was not expecting it to be quite as devastating a hit as it was. It was actually 4 out of 6 torpedoes hit, and that removes a major part of the remaining enemy threat, because that Queen Elizabeth was otherwise quite healthy, and it's also just about doubled my hit points damage rather. So, forward into the smoke. We lost the Bayern, I believe, but they don't have a lot of ships left now. The New Mexico, that was way down south, died, and that just leaves the Fiji, having now taken out the Gallant. And the Fiji is such low health that, despite this not being exactly optimal positioning, there we go, one hit does the trick, and I get that last kill. So this is why I was a little, in retrospect, steamed about that Minikaze stealing my kill earlier, because it would have been a Kraken. And that could have been just an extra really nice medal, but as it was, 15 defense flags, I think, is possibly what pushed me into getting over 2,000 base XP, 2,198 base XP. It wasn't even that much damage, but that huge strike against the Queen Elizabeth at the end, the fact that I blocked them from capping the middle for so long, I think really helped out the team. Because if they'd had 2/3 of the cap points for a lot longer period of time, that would have made things considerably trickier for us. So yeah, it was just a really messy game, and it was just a complete scramble, and I was not sure at all I was going to come out of that one alive, especially backing out the smoke, and suddenly there's the Gallant. So yeah, it was an interesting game. It was quite a fun game, but I had to go and, you know, breathe into a paper bag afterwards because it was a little bit more action filled than maybe I'm used to in destroyers. I'm quite a cautious destroyer player overall. Sometimes a bit too cautious maybe. There are times when I could be a bit more aggressive. But in that particular case, I didn't really have much of a choice because the enemy team was, at least towards the end there. In fact, well, for most of that, the enemy team was coming to me. So hopefully you enjoyed this rather interesting game. I thought it was a bit interesting anyway. And if you did, you can hit the like button. You can leave any comments below. You can sub to my channel account already. And as always, stay tuned for more.